Welcome to Containerization Crash Course. My name is Jeff Krakenberg, and this is going to be a series of quick videos on how to get Docker set up on a Kali Linux virtual machine and start using it for some cyber labbing to build our skills. If you do not have a Kali Linux virtual machine, one will be provided to you via Offensive Security and VirtualBox, Hyper-V, VMware, whatever you want to use. There are tons of ways to install it, and I will link some links. I'll link some links. I was doing so good on the words. Anyway, I will link some links in the description on how to do that, as well as some documentation to help with that. But this video is being made to highlight that not all Dockers are equal, right? There are two main versions of Docker that you'll run into, and most of the time the first one is perfectly fine. This is Docker IO that I'm referring to, and this is going to be your first one that you'll see come up a lot, but it does have a couple of issues that you can run into long term because Docker IO is based on the Linux distribution's packaging and not Docker itself. So you can fall out of sync with the most current versions as you're waiting for the next update to the Linux distribution. Whereas if we scroll down a little bit on the Kali documentation, we'll see that there's also Docker CE, which stands for Docker Community Edition. This is maintained and managed by Docker themselves, so it is more up to date, but still stable, and it is dependent on the Debian packages that Kali was going to use eventually anyway. So these are going to be the steps for getting it to work a little bit easier, a little bit more fluid. So we've got some commands that we need to run to get us started. I'm going to throw my browser over here, throw my terminal over here, and I am currently logged in just as the default Kali user because this is a fresh VM that I'm using. I would recommend making your own user account and doing some configuration of the virtual machine if you're planning on using it long term. But if you're not planning on using it long term and you just want to do some demoing of Docker, that is okay. It is as easy as just grabbing the commands right out of the documentation and pasting them in and running them. So now we have, in the first step, joined, that's one way to think about it, joined the repository or grabbed the repository. Then we need to import the key so that we trust it. And then last but not least, we need to update and install. So I'm going to go sudo apt update. And then I'm going to do sudo apt install -y Docker CE, the Community Edition, Docker CE CLI, so I can work with it, and the container.io, pulling directly from the repository that we just joined and trusted by key. Alright, now that that is done, I'll go ahead and clear my screen. It is important to note that anything you do with Docker is going to require, that's not the right word, is going to require specific privileges. You have two options. You can sudo everything, you could switch up to root, or the last step we're going to do in this, we're actually going to steal a command from the other set of instructions, and we're going to do this sudo user mod AG for add group Docker, and then call the variable of the current user. And so now if we do groups Kali, we have added ourselves into that Docker group. To make this work the most, you do need to log out and log back in. So I'm going to close my browser, and I'm going to close my terminal, and then I'm going to fail to execute opening something because I don't know how to click on a button because I have these tiny little dragons on the top of my screen, which was actually blocking exactly where the button is. That's too much information. I'm going to log out. I'm going to log back in. You could also restart the virtual machine if that's quicker for you. And then now the very last thing that we need to do is we need to enable Docker to run. So I'm going to do sudo systemctl enable --now Docker. So it's going to say as root, I want to enable the system of Docker right now. So this is like doing enable and start at the same time. Now if I go ahead and do Docker, now if I go ahead and do systemctl status Docker, I'll see that it is active and running and that it is enabled. Control C to get out of that. Let's go ahead and just make sure it works with Docker run, the most basic thing any computer programming ever has you do, Docker run hello world. So reading through this, anytime you run a Docker container, that's what that does. You're saying, hey Docker, run the image, or create a container from the image, hello world. And in this case it says, I don't have that locally. Let's go ahead and download it. So it pulls it, downloads, checks the digest, and then runs it. So that is going to be the introduction, our start, our beginning.